Hello, Mac. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Mac, my man, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, Mark, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, Mark, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. There's some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Mark, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves are all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Mark, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes in it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Mac. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. And I was so, so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Mark that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request for me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your work, the impact your work is having. And now you are offering your solutions, my man. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Mark is doing. And not only me now, because, I don't want to look selfish and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Mark. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing else you could do about it. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, and I love that story.
Thank you. Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Mark, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Mark, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Mark on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information of which I am totally convinced, my man, that our conversation is going to be impactful and insightful. So, for that reason, Mark, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Mark got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Mark, my man, over to you.
Great. So, again, I'm Marc Shuman. I'm an attorney. My firm does personal injury, car, truck, motorcycle accidents, workers' compensation. Actually, just started my 30th year of my firm, and in June, I'll be celebrating my 40th year practicing
Mm,
law. Hard to believe. I don't know where the years went, but yeah, we represent injured parties against the big bad insurance companies, and doing it a long time. And it's an interesting business. Obviously, until you need one, you don't need one. People don't think about it, and then they get into a bad accident. Could be one of the worst days of their lives, and they need help. And the truth is, it's not a fair fight. These multi-billion-dollar insurance companies against someone with could be no resources, could be unemployed, or someone you could never match what they could put into a case. And so fortunately, people are here to fight to try to get them compensation for their medical bills and lost wages and their injuries, to help them in these terrible situations. So that's what we've been doing for many, many years. And we also do a lot of uh, charity type work and try to do things to give back to the community, which we can talk about as well, especially on the motorcycle side. And I've become a big advocate of teaching people about insurance, because in all my years of doing this, we've had dozens and dozens of people who get in terrible, catastrophic even accidents, and there's not enough insurance to get them fully compensated, sometimes not enough to pay their bills or their lost wages. And so I made it my life's mission to try to educate anyone I can get my hands on how insurance works, what's the proper amount of insurance a person should have to protect themselves and their families. And again, we don't sell insurance. So when I teach people, I have nothing to offer other than free advice. But it's really, I've talked to thousands of people now over many years, and 95% of them have no idea, because no one ever teaches insurance in school. You don't learn about it on the street.
Yeah.
And unless someone like me would talk about it, and so few people do, people think they're protected when they're actually exposed if they get into a bad crash. And so I've made it my mission on a daily basis, 2 or 3 times a day. I'm talking to people. We talk to groups of people. We do a lot of stuff in the motorcycle community specifically. We've got a real grassroots niche practice as part of our personal injury practice that we sponsor. We sponsor accident scene safety classes for motorcycle riders. We teach them about insurance. We do a lot of stuff. So we're constantly giving back.
I got that. And I love the fact that you also prioritizing education, because, a lot of people could actually benefit from this knowledge, but they can't because they don't know. So that's a great job you're doing, and I appreciate that. I love that. And I feel like it's a very important one. So, um, what is personal injury law in simple terms?
You get involved in an accident, for example, in a car accident's the predominant. You get rear-ended in a car accident and you get injured. Personal injury helps the person get, first of all, obviously get their car repaired or replaced. And then it also helps you get money for your injuries, for your medical bills, for your out of pocket for your lost wages, as well as compensation for your injuries itself. Fortunately, the way they have structured this 100 years ago is, if someone is injured and they can hire a personal injury attorney, it's one of the few areas of law where they call it a contingent fee. Most lawyers, if you hire a family lawyer, criminal lawyer, real estate, you have to pay them up front and you're paying them
Yeah,
by the hour.
yeah.
Personal injury case, they do it on a contingent fee, meaning you pay nothing up front and then the attorneys get a percentage at the end of the case,
Oh,
which is
wow.
good for everybody. The reason they do this is it puts you on a more equal plane. If you had to try to match what these insurance companies could spend, which is they have unlimited budgets, you
Yeah.
could never do that. And so it allows you to you could be unemployed and get hit by a car and hire any attorney you want, because they're going to get paid directly from the insurance company. And the way they do it from the attorney's point of view, they give you a percentage, which gives the attorney an incentive to do a good job, because the more they get for the client, the more they get paid. But from the injured person's perspective, it allows them to hire anybody and not have the financial pressure to have to worry about trying to fund a case. And some of these cases, especially the catastrophic ones,
Right.
if they have to go to trial, literally could spend 50, 100, $200,000 just
Oh,
on costs to bring a case to trial, especially if you have to hire experts and accident reconstructionists and things like that. It's very, very expensive because they all get paid. And so what happens on those cases is we front all of the costs. And if somehow the case would lose at trial, the client owes nothing. We'd have to write it off.
wow.
Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often ever, but it allows the person to get the best possible representation especially on the catastrophic injuries, and get their families compensated and somewhat bring their life back to whole.
Mm.
And so that's how they structured this system. So that's basically what personal injury is about.
Amazing, amazing. This is some very vital information. So when should someone call a personal injury lawyer?
Well, in terms, I mean, most people, until you need it, until God forbid you're in a crash or you get hurt on someone's property or something like that, that's when they usually call. Most people don't even think about it until you need it. And so there's really nothing you could do in advance other than, for instance, if someone called me, I do free insurance reviews daily. We say, hey, send me your policy. I'll tell you exactly what you have and what you should be looking for,
Mm,
free. I don't sell insurance, but other than that, most people are not going to even think about a personal injury lawyer unless they get hurt and they're looking to get compensated. Or again, we do workers' comp as well. If they get hurt on the job, then they're going to be looking, how do I get my bills paid? How do I get my weekly checks, as well as compensation? So it's the type of business, until you need it, you don't think about it, most
yeah,
people.
true. And I got that. So let's talk about your law firm. So how did you grow your law firm and what was the hardest growth phase?
It's interesting. When I started my firm, I was actually running a person's firm. I've only had 3 jobs in my coming up on 40 years. I worked for a small firm, and then I was hired and started. This gentleman was an Oklahoma lawyer who had practiced here and opened a Chicago office, and I ran his firm for 5 years. And then I went off on my own back in 1996, and started with just me in a shared office, and slowly grew. And now, we have 5 attorneys and a staff of 23 people.
How was the journey been so far?
I was a journey bit. Um, it's very interesting. There's
Mm,
peaks and valleys. I mean, it's an interesting. No two cases are alike. Um, it's been good. I mean, it's become a much. It can be a difficult business at times because defense attorneys or insurance companies don't want to pay on cases, so there's a lot more cases that we are filing a lawsuit on. We are not a settlement shop, meaning if they give a bad offer, we're going to file a lawsuit and we're going to
mm,
fight and do whatever we have to. And so this seems like a lot of the insurance companies are watching their dollars, and a lot more cases that maybe used to settle aren't settling. And so we file a lawsuit. And a lot of times after we file a lawsuit, we are able to get settlement. So it's it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of satisfaction when I always tell people we're not medicine, we're not saving lives, but we do change people's lives, especially on the bad
mm,
injury cases when you know they're getting nothing, and it's amazing that people have come to me where insurance companies, if they had been smart and gave a legitimate offer, they probably would
yeah,
have settled the case for a fraction of what they ended up paying, which is what they should pay. But because they're foolish and really they don't care about people. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They care about numbers, right?
yeah.
And so people come to me, and it's just amazing. Even on a death case, you would think that they'd be smart, and sometimes,
Oh,
and it really takes a fight, and sometimes these cases take a long time to go
wow.
through the system. And if you're going to do it right and you're going to hire the experts, some of these cases can take years. Some, it depends on the
Really?
court, but oh, it's a fight. It's a more difficult business that way. I mean, we're not afraid of it, but in 30 years ago, some cases that would settle from some of the big insurance companies, now they're offering a fraction of it, and you have to file lawsuits to get proper justice for people.
Tell you, man. It's difficult, but you're still into it. And you're still doing it. And the passion that you speak with is amazing. And that's a great
It is,
inspiration.
and you
Yeah.
know what? Yeah, I feel, yeah, we've actually had growth in the last years. I'm not slowing down. I'm probably speeding up. We're doing a
I
lot of
love
things
that.
with AI. Yeah. Since COVID, I think the legal world finally got into the 21st century. I mean, there are things being done on Zoom now, like depositions that never were. And we're right along with it. There's so many things that are helpful now with AI. Um, the world has changed dramatically,
Yeah.
even in the legal things that it can do to assist us. The old saying, is AI going to replace people? No, not necessarily. But if someone doesn't know AI, you're going to get replaced by someone who knows AI.
True.
And it's you know we're cutting edge in terms of how we do things, and in terms of how even things that help with these lawsuits and medical record summaries and assisting. It's unbelievable what it can do, and we're just scratching the surface.
Just scratching the surface.
What has law taught me about life, or
What is courtroom? Courtroom. Courtroom.
oh, the courtroom taught
Yeah.
about life? It's interesting. With especially now with how politics has really separated people in this country a lot. But when it comes to a courtroom, there used to be oh, you have to have this type of jury or that type of jury, and
Mm,
it doesn't matter. People want justice, and
yeah.
especially if you have a corporation that's breaking rules to a trucking case, and these truckers are working too many hours and cause a catastrophic injury. It doesn't matter your political party. People are people. They want the right thing done, and so I think that as long as you can show um, why people are breaking rules and you're not just out for money, you're really out for justice and getting people compensated. It's interesting. I don't think politics comes into play so much during the courtroom, which is you with the country so divided in a lot of ways. It doesn't necessarily, even like very conservative counties have given some very large awards to people, which is interesting. So you find that everyone wants the right thing. So there is a lot of common ground when it comes to that.
There's a lot of common ground when it comes to that. Everyone wants the right thing, justice. I got that. I got that. So to bring this to an end, Mark, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or maybe they need your service, or want to ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Because I'm so passionate about teaching people about insurance, and because I know that 90% of the people don't know, I really think people need to look at their insurance policies. And what they don't understand is if they get the minimum coverage in their state. We're in Illinois. Illinois has decent insurance, but even the minimum coverage, for example, is $25,000 per person, 50,000 per accident. I tell people you'd be shocked to get four times that coverage. For example, $100,000 per person, 300,000 per accident. It's pennies per day to get four times the coverage, which what people don't think about, and I'll just leave you with a quick thought of a quick summary. What I tell people is what they don't think about when they get cheap insurance is if you're stopped at a light and you get rear-ended by another car and you have a terrible injury, you say you break a leg and you can't work for a year. If the other party has minimum coverage, let's say of 25,000, and you have minimum coverage of 25,000, we can only get 25,000 for the people, not 25,000 plus their medical bills or plus their lost wages. So they could have $100,000 in medical bills or $1 million. And I've had cases like this, and you can only get 25 total less, and they walk away with pennies. Whereas for literally pennies per day, they could have 100,000 of coverage. And so, and if someone rear ends you and they don't have enough insurance, you could get up to 100,000 from your own insurance company called uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist and protect yourself or your family. And so that's part of what I teach people. That's a good, a short example of how, and even higher limits, but that's like the bare minimum I tell people is you should have at least $100,000 of coverage at $300,000 per accident. Because by the time they come to me, and if they have a bad injury, I can't change the policy, right? And I have a lot of, we've had obviously huge injuries, but with good coverage, and we've had a lot with bad coverage, and it really breaks my heart, which is why I've become so passionate about teaching people. Because if you can get ahead of it, and I have several examples of people I have told, and then they get into another accident, and now they're protected, and that makes me feel good because, without it, you know,
It's fulfilling. I
people get,
got that.
and I've had people like crying, what do I do? How am I going to
Mm,
support my family? And it breaks my heart. So that's why I've made it my life's mission
mm,
to anyone I can
okay.
get my hands on, I'm going to try to teach
I
them.
tell
So
you,
that's my big takeaway. Look at your insurance. And by the way, they can contact, we do free insurance reviews. I'm happy they can send me their policy. I can tell them in 10 minutes what they have, what they should be looking for. And I'm not partial to any insurance company. Any of the good ones are fine, but you price it out. As far as contacting me, either go to my website, SchumanLegal.com. It's SHUMAN legal.com. They can email me, mschuman, my first initial last name, mschuman at SchumanLegal.com. We're real receptive. I'll talk to anybody anytime. And, I'm happy to answer any questions with no cost, no charge for doing that. It's my pleasure.
beautiful. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Mac. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this high opening stuff with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure being on your show.